So why is 1,000 pieces print job cheaper than 50 pieces? 1,000 pieces will be cheaper when you consider the price per unit of that 1,000 pieces and consider the price per unit of that 50 pieces. That is to say, if 50 pieces cost you 10 naira and 1,000 pieces cost you 100 naira, just looking at that, 1,000 pieces is obviously expensive than 50, but when you divide that 100 by 1,000, you get the cost per unit. The 1,000 pieces cost 100 naira. So when you divide that 1,000 by 100 naira, that is cost per unit. Now when you divide this 50 naira by 10, you get its own cost per unit. So the cost per unit of 50 naira of 50 pieces is higher than the cost per unit of 1,000 pieces. Now back to the main thing. When we are making bulk job, the main reason why the 1,000 pieces cost per unit is much cheaper than the 50 pieces is because of the setup cost. You see, when we are trying to print, there are some things that need to be put in place for the print to happen and to run successfully. Things like plate making, ink, machine setup, materials, and all that. You see, when the job is a lot, is bulky, this cost can be easily spread upon the final cost. So it looks like it has more numbers to take in this setup cost, so they become less relevant. But when the job is not bulky, just 50, and this setup cost is still the same, because the setup cost for 1,000 pieces is the same setup cost for 50 pieces, aside the material. Material is not the same, but the setup cost, I'm talking about setup cost now. The setup cost that we will use for 1,000 pieces is the same thing we use for 50 pieces. Now when you are spreading this setup cost on 1,000 pieces, it absorbs it, so it becomes less significant. But for 50 pieces, it doesn't have that number to absorb it. So the setup cost is very glaring, and the more the numbers of the job, the more it's able to absorb the cost, the setup cost. So that's number one. Number two reason why 1,000 pieces will be cheaper than 50 pieces is because of the material cost. Now when you are buying material to produce 50 copies of something, you have less bargaining. Even as a manufacturer, we have less bargaining power compared to when we are buying 1,000 pieces worth of material. You know, if you are buying just 50, but if you are buying 1,000, I'm buying bulk now, give me discount. It is through that discount that we get from our supplier. It is that same discount we will apply to you, to our customer. The same way the supplier that supply us, they also get discount when they buy container compared to buying just carton. That same discount they got is the same discount they give us. It is this same discount we will give you. So when the quantity is not much, we have less bargaining power of the material. Now another thing is running cost. Now when you are making say you want to make a size of this 10 copies of this book, for instance, and we are using this size of material, we have two of this. We can get two of this size from this one. This is just an example. No, that's not exactly correct, but just look at it from distance. So you want 10 pieces of this book, and then another person wants 100 pieces, so to say. So we can see two of this book on a sheet. Now if we want to print this sheet, there will be wastage in trying to get the color right. When trying to get the print right, so the color is okay and then the print is fine, there will be wastage. We will print some samples, inks will be used, paper will be used, time will be spent. It is this cost that will be spread over your 10 pieces, and it is the same cost, the same process that will happen for 1,000 pieces, so to say, or 100 pieces, so to say. So the 100 pieces or 1,000 pieces will be able to absorb that cost. And so if you are doing 10, we will print 5 of this for you to get 10 of that. If you are printing 100, we will do 50 of this to get 100 of that for you. Now, the same cost, the same time, almost time is not the same, but the same setup cost we will use to get the machine up and running. It's the same setup cost we will use for 50 pieces or 10 pieces. It's the same setup cost we will use to get the machine up and running for 1,000 pieces or 100 pieces. So the same time, the same setup cost, and the same time it takes to do 10, 50. It's the same setup cost it takes to do 100 and 1,000. So when the cost is now divided on the job, the small runs don't have the numbers to absorb it. Meanwhile, the larger runs has the numbers to absorb the cost. That's just the reason why bulk orders is usually cheaper than few runs. Thank you.